This week's episode was brought to you by Lafayette and Lisa DeMora. Thank you, Lafayette and Lisa DeMora. It's with the ongoing support of listeners like you that our band of bunnies gets to keep going topside and raiding all the former vestiges of human civilization for scrap that we can build into tiny grenades that, when triggered, play the Whole Rabbit podcast at full volume to distract the swarm of man-killing robot drones that rule the surface world into thinking about the Bible instead of shooting at people, because robots, they actually find religious allegory confounding and are demoralized by the idea of baptism. If you'd like to help us give the hostile robots in the future existential dread, or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you the second uncensored half of this episode, nay, you'll get the second uncensored, unhinged, unplugged, remixed, replugged, decoupled, remastered version of every single one of our episodes, more than doubling the amount of content you have at your disposal. But not only that, I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art at no additional cost, with instant access to our Discord server where you can hang out with listeners and hosts of the show. It's getting near the end of the year, so if you subscribe for just 1 month at our $20 tier, I will give you a New Year's tarot reading on video over Discord at a convenient time for both of us. A popular choice or even gift for folks who like New Year's readings. Also, they're kind of fun. In this week's episode, we direct our usual mode of esoteric inquiry towards the popular memetic youth culture phenomena which has produced the viral slogan 6-7 mangoes and mustard, often summarized as little more than nonsense phrases intended to signal irony, ambiguity, or in-group identity, popularly referred to simply as brain rot. What we discovered was profound, strangely consistent, and totally unexpected, leaving us to ponder the relationship between the Buddha, medieval Christian kabbalists, and the rantings of Philip K. Dick and his Exegesis. In the free side of the show, we discuss what brain rot is, how it infected mainstream culture through hip-hop, what it has to do with Saturn, and whether or not our kids are secretly wizards doing esoteric numerology by innate ability by accident. In the extended side of the show, we uncover the connection to Buddhism, the Garden of Eden, and testicles. Thank you, and enjoy the show. You know, I shot my first Thanksgiving turkey this year.
Oh?
Yeah, it scared the hell out of everyone else in the grocery store. Yeah, I actually think my favorite Thanksgiving food is pie, but some people say that's irrational.
Teehee.
You know why they don't serve Thanksgiving leftovers at rehab?
Why?
Because everyone there's trying to quit cold turkey. Honestly, though, I'm not looking forward to Thanksgiving. There's always a lot of yelling, crying, and plate throwing. And frankly, it's also hard being alone on Thanksgiving.
Wait, how is that a joke?
It's a joke because the dude's alone.
No,
That's actually just the reason we're recording this show.
It's really not.
that's just relatable. That's every day. Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just yell at you fanatically about how the material universe is actually an escape room designed by a bunch of bulbous-headed, half-plant, half-reptile, half-shark creatures from Zeta Reticuli who have a powerful obsession with experimenting on the human uterus for fun and profit. Nay, we also sometimes whip out the turkey baster to keep the meat moist between sneaking off to take puffs of the devil's lettuce with that one weird cousin you only see once every 3 years, because this week you're celebrating Friendsgiving around the mustard tree with The Whole Rabbit, where you're invited to a helping of sweet carrot salad and a seat at the dinner table where we debate on matters too strange for mortal minds to comprehend. I also think I've solved brain rot. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by the macerator of the midwits, Mari Sama.
The bell curve feeds me.
The pumpkin spice sphinx, Heka Astra.
Hello. I don't actually like pumpkin spice lattes and stuff.
I'll take them.
I'm not a pumpkin spice girl.
Yes, you are!
No, I'm not.
The tiny Tyrannosaurus Rex of truth, Tim the Heart Boy Hacker.
I'm wearing really dope as fuck socks right now. I just want you to know that.
And special guest, game designer, listener, and friend of the show, the mighty Chills.
I'm allergic to pumpkin.
Are you really?
It will kill me.
Hecka, there's a plant that'll kill you, isn't there?
I don't want to tell people because then they feed it to me.
That's true.
I'm allergic to penicillin.
You know, Thanksgiving is a special time of year for people with food allergies because it's that one time of year where you find out which family member is willing to kill you because they don't believe in allergies. We all have that one relative, right?
You know,
I
it's
mean,
funny,
it's-
but that's legit true. Yeah, there are people that are like, no, there's no way you can be allergic to pumpkin. Like, here, just try mine. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. And they're like, we won't even tell him there's pumpkin in there. He won't even have a reaction. Watch, he's just making it up.
I was just going to be like, actually, the most successful treatments of allergies, especially like, usually it has to be like a young kid, but is exposure therapy. Like, you just give them a little bit of the thing that they're allergic to. But, you know, you have to be kind of a kid, I guess, for that to work.
You know, people say the same thing about my allergy. They're like, no one's allergic to that.
Luckily, I'm a grown-ass man, so people are more likely to believe me when I say that I'm allergic and I can't have it. I think it's worse if, like, you're a kid telling people that kind of thing. They tend to find you less credible.
Oh, definitely. Well, that's actually what we're talking about today. The children who are not understood, misrepresented, and actually have a lot of secret wisdom that they're trying to share with us. And what do? We just ignore them and we tell them it's brain rot. But you know what? I think I've solved it. I think I've solved the brain rot, you guys.
I'm interested to hear this.
Something I've also been thinking about for some time, and I'm excited to share it with you.
Do explain.
This is big.
6, 7.
Yes, so anyone who has spent any amount of time around kids lately, you've probably heard them say 6, 7.
6,
Yeah.
7.
You know, I've also noticed that this wave of memes, specifically this one, older people are latching onto it a lot faster than in previous times. There was a South Park episode about it, like literally, you know, within a couple months after it being like mainstream.
I think that's true. Like, I noticed stuff like Riz, Skibbity, like all that, like entered the mainstream way quicker than like 10 years ago, Mike.
Yeah, but it leaves quicker too. So things change faster now. But like everybody remembers back in the day when you would say LOL and BRB and G2G. But as soon as like commercials and your fucking mom started saying it, it was like,
over.
we can't say this anymore.
That's kind of how
Yeah,
the cycle goes, right? Is once the mainstream adopts it, the youth are like, okay, it's cringe and we have to drop it now.
Right.
Nothing makes you feel more dead inside about a joke or a meme than having your mom or your dad text it to you.
Oh God.
No, I'm the loser on the other side of things. I have a kid, and then when I learn about it, it's suddenly uncool. So now,
You're still cool.
no, I'm not, but thank you. Now, just today, while I was out walking to get some tamales with my wife, I heard somebody yell at the park, 6, 7. So I know it's not totally dead yet. That was just today. So,
Schools were...
and before I launch into this, there's this idea I've heard floating around, mostly in chaos magic, but I've heard it's related to more traditional forms of magic. And it's represented in the sun card of the tarot, where you have like the 2 kids, right? Babies. There's usually a white horse, and there's this concept that children somehow are connected to the sun. And the sun is like the heart of our solar system. It's this idea that youth culture is not something that's, I think we would do it an injustice just to call youth culture brain rot. And even if the kids are saying stuff that's like random and bizarre and weird, I think that's the time when we should pay the most attention. Perhaps I'm biased as somebody who does divination, but I don't believe anything is random. I believe that children react to the solar maximum and the solar minimums in culture, and that's where we get the hippie and punk phases of culture. And so I'm inclined to look at the number 6, 7 as if it has some deep cosmic significance. And I think it does. But to speak on behalf of the devil's advocate, if you just ask the mainstream, 6, 7, and all those other memes, they don't actually mean anything. According to Grok,
It functions as a form of brain rot slang, characterized by its intentional ambiguity, absurdity, and lack of fixed meaning, serving as an in-group signal of shared cultural awareness. This phenomenon exemplifies the rapid, decentralized evolution of language driven by social media platforms, where phrases gain traction through the viral remixing rather than perspective definitions.
now this is something I can appreciate firsthand. I've talked about it on the show. When I was a kid, we used to say meerkat and it didn't mean anything. We would also say rice, and that didn't mean anything either. So I have sympathy for the idea that kids just say random stuff, sometimes just to bother grown-ups and have an in-group. That being said, 6, 7 does have a cultural node that we can point to where it originated from. Technically speaking, research shows that the craze emanates from a Philadelphia rapper named Skrilla, who used the lyrics 6, 7 as a refrain following a verse.
Put a belt right to they behind the way that switch. I know he dying. 6'7". I just bit right on the highway.
Fans speculate that this likely refers to 67th Street in Philadelphia, potentially connecting the term to gang representation. When I first heard the term, I automatically assumed it's from hip-hop. You just say a number like that, it corresponds to a gang. But if we follow the Philadelphia connection a bit more, we discover the police code 1067 is the Philadelphia Police Department code that corresponds to a report of a death. So it's kind of a badass thing to say in a rap song. It's like, oh, somebody died, better report it, right? In alignment with this idea, fans point out that 6'7" may refer to the grave in another way, as 6 feet under, 7 feet apart is one suggested explanation.
So it's kind of like how you used to say 187, like on old rap.
Yes, exactly. Or 420, supposedly.
I just love listening to you guys try to decode this shit.
Well, so far, this is pretty basic hip-hop stuff. Now, after doing some digging, get it, I figured out that your average cemetery plot in America is actually about 4 feet wide, with then 3 additional feet between the graves, giving it a total of 7. So it's not totally unfounded, the graveyard explanation. Considering we just did an episode about graveyards, I think that's kind of fun. If we look for more esoteric or occult ideas, these themes continue. The song itself is named Doot Doot, which sounds like, at least to me, a colloquialism for firing guns. Doot, 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 doot. Yeah, that has to be what it is. I listened to the song. It's terrible, but I'm over 30, so 6'7". It also doesn't hurt that in terms of internet culture, especially amongst occult nerds and chaos magicians, Doot Doot refers to a beloved meme of a low poly 3D skeleton blowing a bugle, often accompanied by the phrase Doot Doot.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the one I like.
It doesn't make any sense because skeletons don't have lips, so they can't have any embouchure of their lips. So they can't play a bugle.
Doot Doot.
They don't have lungs either.
Doot
Doot
Doot.
doot.
But I like the graphic.
One more thing I need to scream out loud in Arc Raiders.
Now that you brought up the song, I do remember this. And I remember like hearing something from the artist that made the song being asked about it. And his answer was that it didn't mean anything.
He did. He said that. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that he just didn't want to allude to gang activity or something. But, I mean, it also could just be it was some slick shit to say in a song and he just went with it.
You also wouldn't want to tell people if you had, like, killed someone and wrote a song about it?
You would think so, but there's been a number of rappers that wound up being caught out that way.
Well, maybe that's why he's silent, because he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, you don't want to draw bad attention to your gang, especially if you have friends in that gang and, like, you don't want them to fucking hate you, you know?
Now, this is not a tape recorder saying that he did it, but ever since that day, I was looking at him different.
Discretion might be a virtue, even if you're a loudmouth rapper, you know, agreed.
It's also kind of an in-group thing. Like, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. If you don't know where the party is, you're not invited.
Bro, if you know, you know.
Yeah, true.
So if we dig into the esoteric side of 67, the picture comes even clearer into focus. For instance, 67 has a powerful significance in the world of gematria and the hermetic traditions of magic, which make use of it. As a prime number, 67 shares the same numerical value of the Hebrew word bina, which means understanding, and is also the name of the third sephira on the Kabbalistic tree of life, traditionally associated with the planet Saturn, along with its corresponding set of ideas, such as limitation, endings, and of course, death.
6, 7.
The Gematria Notebook of Paul Foster Case explains the significance of Bina, and by extension, the number 67.
The fundamental meaning of Bina is the power of separation, the ability to distinguish truth from falsehood, and the power to adapt means to ends. Thus, it is the mental ability to distinguish one thing from another, which is the basis for understanding. Bina is both the dark, sterile mother, Amma, and Ima the bright, pregnant mother. This respect of reality is the matrix of all possible specialized forms of expression. Amma represents this aspect of being prior to the beginning of a cycle of the life powers self-manifestation. Ima is the fertile womb from which flow forth all forms made manifest during such a cycle of the life powers self-expression. Bina is called Shabbathai, the sphere of Saturn, because every appearance of special, particularized manifestation necessitates limits of quantity, quality, mass, form, etc. In the astrological terminology of ageless wisdom, the contractile limiting power is called Saturn. Note in this connection that the birth of living creatures results from the contraction of the womb, which carries the body during its period of gestation. Bina is attributed neshama, the divine breath, the Holy Spirit in Christian symbolism. No matter how gravely a human being sins, this neshama is never involved.
Remember, what happens on Earth stays on Earth.
It is the highest aspect of soul, the seat of the divine life's intuitive knowledge of all that is, and of all that must inevitably bring into manifestation because of what it knows itself to be. In man, neshama is the source of intuitive knowledge of spiritual truth. It is also the supreme source of guidance in the progress of man towards mastery.
We find this idea of separation and distinction well represented elsewhere, when 6-7 appears as the numerical value of the Hebrew word zin, which means sword, and is associated with the lovers in the tarot. The correspondence here being, understanding is the fruit of discernment, the tool that the sword represents.
The letter Zin, Zane, weapon, sword. The sword symbolizes discrimination gained through trial and error, and understanding is the ripened fruit of discrimination. There is a distinct relationship between the third Sephira, the suit of swords, and the Yetziratic world. Now consider also that Mercury rules Gemini, represented in the rota by key 6, and this is the key corresponding to Zane, the name of which letter is the number 6-7, the same as the value of Bina. That is, the path of Zane is the first channel for the descending influence of Bina and partakes of her essential nature. She, however, is pregnant with the descending influence from Keter through the path of Bet.
So if we break that down a little bit, the lovers is number 6, major arcana, Atu 6. Its Hebrew letter association is Zain, which has the Hebrew value of 7. So you have the lover 6, Zain 7, 6, 7. Then if you spell out Zain, you also get 6, 7. Interestingly, if you look at the path between the 6th Sephira and the 7th Sephira, that's where the death card goes. So there's another connection with death. So on the surface, it means death, but below the surface, it represents wisdom embodied as understanding. It's kind of this big, weird idea, but we're going to see that it comes together. So keep some of these themes and ideas in mind as we continue to explore another, I believe, esoterically connected edition of Brain Rot, Mustard. This one's a little more obscure, but the kids also say, Mustard!
Mustard. Yeah, that's K-Dot.
I think a lot of times the way that I have heard it used, it kind of sounds like they're using it like I understand, or I'm picking up what you're putting down, or are you picking up what I'm putting down, or like...
A little bit.
Yeah, they're using it as like a connection, like a coded connection word, which is kind of what understanding is it's a connection.
Well, it's also what the lovers do.
Yes, so I think that's really interesting that it lines up like that.
I genuinely don't believe anything is totally random. I think everything has meaning. And like the more random something is, the more meaning it probably has. And maybe even the easier you'll find the meaning. It's the things that seem like one thing on the surface and there's something else below the surface that are really tricky. But if something just seems totally out of place and random, you should look right at it and start digging, you know? That's what I think.
That's what the Fool card does best, and that's why he shows up all the way through the tarot. Well, one of the reasons.
It's sort of the method behind our show. That's kind of the gimmick we do. Now, for anyone who hasn't heard their kid or kids or Kendrick Lamar say mustard, I had the AI do a synopsis so it could explain to us the raw facts behind mustard.
The phrase mustard, exclaimed emphatically in all caps, emerged as a hallmark of Gen Alpha, quote, brain rot slang in 2024, characterized by its absurd, context-free usage to convey excitement, affirmation, or ironic chaos, often detached from literal meaning. This aligns with the broader trends in digital youth culture, where phrases evolve through viral remixing on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, prioritizing performative nonsense over semantic precision. I don't know, actually mustard was slang for that's great in like the late 1800s, just saying. Like, time is a closed loop.
Is that because it adds flavor to otherwise bland cuisine?
Or it's a zing, you know, it's a punch.
Yeah,
it's
some...
punchy. Or it doesn't cut the mustard, that kind of thing.
It's that Great Poupon, that AV on that TED Talk. Like, it's like luxury white people stuff that's associated with like high class and intelligence. It's like, this is the good shit. This is the caviar.
So its primary origin traces back to the track TV Off from Kendrick Lamar's sixth studio album, GNX, released on November 22nd, 2024. As the seventh song on the album, Lamar delivers a raw, shouted mustard in the hook.
Mustard!
repeating it with escalating intensity amid themes of introspection and cultural critique. The exclamation's raw delivery, punctuated by Lamar's vocal timbre, and the production by Mustard, Dijon McFarlane, the track's producer and a frequent collaborator. This transformed it into an instantly quotable snippet. Within days of the album's drop, fans isolated the audio, spawning memes that amplified its standalone absurdity. The phrase's virality accelerated in early 2025 through cross-pollination with the contemporaneous 6-7 meme trend, where numerical equivalences, e.g. 6 plus 7 equals 13, or letter counts in absurd pairings, fuel ironic humor. A key extension appeared in the Mango Mustard meme, originating around July 10th on 2025 on TikTok.
I'm
Here,
so lost.
No, remember?
Here-
No, because she sometimes just spends time with me when I'm at work, and she hears the kids say mangoes. And we had a whole discussion. They're like, why are all the kids saying mangoes? Dude, listen for it. They're saying mangoes. Every 5 seconds, these kids are saying mangoes. Don't take my word for it. Just listen.
No, I know that, but like now the meaning of this stuff is like totally dropped off.
No, keep up. This is a really helpful breakdown.
Mangoes?
Yes, just listen. She's going to explain why. The kids are based occultists. I'm telling you, she's going to explain why right now.
Okay. Here, mangoes, which is 6 letters, plus mustard, which is 7 letters, equals 6-7.
See?
Crack the code.
This is mocking the trend's contrived logic while evoking a grotesque food pairing. This fusion elevated mustard from a musical Easter egg to a brain rot staple, often deployed in edits of unrelated chaos, like school disruptions or gaming fails, to signal in-group irony.
I think it's hilarious because they both start with M, so it's like 6-7. I can
Now you're getting the hang of it.
Dude, I can see why it's caught on, because it's like, it is a level of absurdity that's catchy and funny. It would become viral, I think.
I just think this is how the solar force expresses itself on Earth.
So what it makes me think about is there was this term that was used by occultists, like in Germany a couple hundred years ago, which they called the language of the birds. And this was the idea that you could find these encoded messages basically in anything. Once you start looking deep enough, you start finding synchronicities and mathematical expression. And it was kind of a way of explaining, like, how can we look at the Bible and find all these different correspondences between words? Like, how did they write it that way? Is it even possible to write it that way intentionally?
It's all Egyptian to me. I think we actually did an episode called The Language of the Birds, where we talked about bird symbolism.
Yes, a few years ago, we did do an episode just about the language of birds, because you're right. They're used in alchemy, and they oftentimes correspond to different stages in alchemy. But the ancient Egyptians had like a whole language of birds too.
Well, I think it was at one point in time also used to reference hieroglyphics, because there were just so many bird hieroglyphs.
Can I loop back to something you were saying, Chills? You mentioned that part of this thought space was considering, is it even possible that these artists have encoded so much into their artwork? Like, is it even possible? I like that question because it's like an unexamined assumption here on The Whole Rabbit, or we examine it every now and then, but sometimes it's good to refresh it. Meaning, I tend to think that artists draw from the same creative wellspring that all life in existence comes from, which some would call the collective unconscious. So artists can just naturally filter symbolism through their artwork and give it profound meaning and profound correspondence just because they're tapped in. And then other people do it on purpose. And then other people, they're like both at the same time. And then you've got like Stanley Kubrick, who's like, I can't even understand. He seems to have like an alien level of hyper intelligence in terms of what you're talking about. So I do know it's possible. And inspiration. So it is possible. But I tend to believe that even if it's not being done on purpose, there's still value in looking at things for their symbolic content, even if it wasn't intended that way.
Agreed, yeah, 100%. I mean, the fact is, the symbolism, the connections, they are there.
It's encoded and it may not be intentional by the person who wrote it.
Right. So, I mean, even if they didn't mean to, if you find a hidden language in a book, or, listen to a recording of someone backwards and hear a full speech, the fact is, it's there.
I agree with Chills. It's like, if it's there, it's supposed to be there. Like, it's basically the same as synchronicity,
So let's operate from that assumption that the kids are channeling some kind of a thing, and it's just filtering up through the collective unconscious. So take all the ideas we've talked about so far and put them on the table in front of you, because we're about to read a quote from Philip K. Dick, who kind of builds this idea out in a section of Valis, his novel, that inside of this novel includes an excerpt from what he called his Exegesis, which was his book attempting to explain his own ecstatic experience and what profound wisdom he had come into contact with, and like trying to explain it to himself.
You just told us to put all the mangoes and the mustard on the table.
Yes, I did. Put all the mustard, all the mangoes on the table, and be ready.
Time to put my mangoes where my mustard is.
So to quote Philip K. Dick from Valis, which is then quoting his Exegesis. I know, confusing. It says, "The Rose Cross Brotherhood wrote, Ex Dio, Nosimer, and Jesu Mortimer, per Spiritum Sanctum Revivissimus, which is to say, from God we are born, in Jesus we die, by the Holy Spirit we live again. This signifies that we have rediscovered the lost formula for immortality which the Empire had destroyed. The Empire never ended. I term the immortal one a plasmate, because it is a form of energy. It is living information. It replicates itself, not through information or in information, but as information. The plasmate can cross-bond with a human, creating what I call a homoplasmate. This annexes the mortal human permanently to the plasmate. We know this as the birth from above, or birth from the spirit. It was initiated by Christ, but the Empire destroyed all the homoplasmates before they could replicate.
You're a homoplasmate.
Thank you.
In dormant seed form, the plasmate slumbered in the buried library of codices at Chenoboiskan until 1945 CE. This is what Jesus meant when he spoke elliptically of the mustard seed, which he said would grow into a tree large enough for the birds to roost in. He foresaw not only his own death, but that of all homoplasmates. He foresaw the codices unearthed, read, and the plasmates seeking out new human hosts to cross-bond with. But he foresaw the absence of plasmate for almost 2,000 years. As living information, the plasmate travels up the optic nerve of a human to the pineal body. It uses the human brain as a female host in which to replicate itself into its active form. This is an interspecies symbiosis. The Hermetic alchemists knew of its theory from ancient texts, but could not duplicate it, since they could not locate the dormant, buried plasmate. Bruno suspected the plasmate had been destroyed by the Empire. For hinting at this, he was burned. The Empire never ended. It must be realized that when all the homoplasmates were killed in 70 CE, real time ceased. More importantly, it must be realized the plasmate has now returned and is creating new homoplasmates, by which it has destroyed the Empire and started up real time. We call the plasmate the Holy Spirit, which is why the Rosicrucian Brotherhood wrote, Per Spiritum Sanctum Revivissimus.
What?
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
If the centuries of spurious times are excised, the true date is not 1978 CE, but 103 CE. Therefore, the New Testament says that the kingdom of the Spirit will come, some now living die. We are living, therefore, in apostolic times.
But what does it mean?
But what does that mean? Okay, Philip K. Dick is speculating that the Holy Spirit lives in the information that was dug up from the Nag Hammadi library, of which we've spoken on this show about the Gospels of Thomas as one of the contents of the Nag Hammadi library. So he believed that the Nag Hammadi library, the Gospels of Thomas, was this mustard seed, and it had to be buried because the people who were living that knowledge or lived with that knowledge had all been killed by the Empire. And for some reason, he conceptualized this as like when all those true followers had been killed, time basically stopped. And he says this is to align with the prophecy that when Christ comes back, some that are alive now will still be alive and some, will die, right? So this he extrapolated out to mean that we're actually living in 103 CE because he's counting time from the discovery of the Nag Hammadi library, and he's saying that basically the information in those lost codices are invariably, did I say it wrong again? Codices. The information in these codices is destined to eventually, like the mustard seed, blossom all over the face of the earth and usher in the kingdom of heaven, basically, and defeat the Black Iron Prison, defeat the false god, and we're all gonna live in peace forever, fucking smoking dope and watching movies at the drive-thru. I don't know.
Mustard is also kind of like a chaotic plant of its own. So I think this ties back in with the chaotic aspect that you brought up with 6-7.
No, you're absolutely correct. Mustard, at least where I come from, is an invasive species. And that's part of the metaphor, is the wisdom of Christ, like it has to fall on fertile soil, but it also is invasive. This is why Philip K. Dick explained the homoplasmate and the early Gnostics and the early Christians as invaders and saboteurs that were sabotaging the Black Iron Prison, trying to get us to escape.
It's not very pleasant to eat on its own either, but it happens to be a plant that we have evolved it for as long as we've been basically growing plants for food. So we have a whole bunch of different brassicas that are essentially the same plant. We've just grown them for different things. I believe that includes broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts,
Cauliflower.
cauliflower. So all of these things that, even if it's unpalatable in its ancient form, we have evolved it as well to be more easily digested. So if you kind of think of this like the wisdom that's carried in the mustard seed, like we've kind of like unpacked it while it's been sleeping.
But it's also a wild plant. Like the actual original wild mustard is on every continent. Every
Spreads.
continent has its own. And it spreads it's like a flower that seeds and it goes into the wind. So it spreads really easily. We have domesticated it, but I feel like it would domesticate itself because of how virulent it's viral. It spreads like a meme. It propagates. So even with or without us, our help of spreading it and like kind of shaping it into these different forms, I feel like it would still be there, right?
Yeah.
It's not dependent on us, but we're helping spread it and form it.
I think you're totally right, because like even if we can evolve it to be something specific, it actually also evolves just fine on its own.
Yeah.
I think they're quite pretty, actually, the wild mustard.
It reminds me where he says in the Gospel Thomas, I have to find the exact quote, hold on. Yeshua said, I have thrown fire upon the world, and look, I watch till it blazes.
420 blaze it.
6-7.
Listen to you guys talk about plants all day. That's really fascinating stuff.
Brassica.
It's such a lie that kids hate broccoli. If your kids hate broccoli, just cook it with more butter.
Yeah, broccoli was no lie, like one of the only vegetables I would eat as a kid.
Right? It's one of the only good tasting vegetables. We're just, adults dunk on kids all the time, and they don't even know it.
That is very true. I don't know if you're going to go in here with this already, but one thing that kind of popped out to me about the text from Dick here is this idea of like the spirit being information. And that's like a really hermetic idea, like the idea that God is a mind, Jesus or, the Savior is a word from the mind. And so this idea of spirit as information is like fits right in with that paradigm.
Well, Kendrick Lamar, despite having a producer named Dijon, he's also a Christian. If you type mustard, let's say into Discord, which I think draws its animations from Giphy, I think it is, the first meme that pops up is Kendrick Lamar like crip walking over a hopscotch design.
That immediately popped out to me when I saw the video. Like it's from the video, that GIF, Not Like Us. And when I first saw Not Like Us, the video, that immediately popped out to me. That scene, yeah.
Well, and I think we've brought up on the show before that like the hopscotch design itself can be related to the tree of life, the Kabbalistic tree of life.
Yep.
Does it sound like something Kendrick Lamar would know about? There's this idea of like profound spiritual wisdom hidden within the children's world, like there in hopscotch. It's very much his motif. He's Gemini as well. So his tarot card associated with his birth would be the Lovers and 6-7, just as a fun coincidence. I think one of the things that maybe I don't have here in the notes that needs to be explained a little more is Bina is often associated with intelligence, which we did suss out a little bit with its connection to 6-7, but the idea of Christ as information and that it is growing like an infant child in the womb of understanding or in Bina is a really compelling idea, and it was compelling to Christian Kabbalists, but we'll get there. Before we get there, I wanted to discuss mangoes, okay? Because you know what? I don't think the Jews or the Christians or the Muslims had a lot of experience with mangoes. Let's be real. I don't think mangoes show up in the Old Testament or the New Testament or the Quran, as far as I could tell. It's very much not an Abrahamic symbol. So we're gonna have to get our balls a little salty and stretch one leg all the way over to India.
Is that where they grow natively?
I don't know, but I can assume probably, because they do represent things in the religions of the East. Let's take a look at Hinduism in India. There, the mango tree is considered a wish-fulfilling tree, called pavriksha, but in miniature. So it's like a little wish-fulfilling tree. I guess there's a mythological tree of which the mango tree is an emanation of.
Aww.
Right? Then, Lord Ganesha is often depicted holding a ripe mango as a reward for spiritual excellence. Kamadeva, the god of love, uses a bow strung with mango blossoms. His 5 arrows are scented with mango flowers. I think that's pretty important. Mango leaves are also hung over doorways during weddings and pujas to attract prosperity and ward off evil. These last 2 items match the esoteric correspondence with the Lovers, as the two-faced Roman Janus, the god of doorways and marriages, is also associated with the Lover's card. His Egyptian equivalent, which Heka has helped me figure out, is Wepawet, who's also associated with arrows. The weapon that Kamadeva, the Hindu equivalent of Cupid, is also said to use here. Cupid is also prominently featured in the Lover's card, at least in the Thoth deck. So there's a strong correspondence between the Lovers and this Kamadeva person, and even Janus. Like, all of the memes line up really well. Lord Ganesha's holding up the mangoes because they represent the fruit of spiritual attainment, the fruit of your hard work. So if we add in the sensual aspect, I think that the mangoes are hinting at, it also corresponds with love and fertility. So you put it all together, you have just the divine sweetness of life, like the thing you want, like the goodness of spirituality.
So would the pomegranate be a good equivalent to it in other traditions? If you could relate the mango to like the spheres of the Kabbalistic tree of life, the spheres specifically, like all the spheres, kind of like how the spheres themselves are envisioned sometimes as like the fruit.
Oh yeah, because the tree of life, fruit.
Yeah.
It's very much the same idea. Like, this is the fruit of the whole thing.
Sort of like how in the High Priestess card, all of the spheres are depicted as pomegranates, but in this case, you could kind of envision them as mangoes.
Yeah, okay, I get what you're getting at. Yeah, because pomegranates are on the High Priestess card, right?
Yeah.
It's just Christians don't have a lot of experience with mangoes, I'm telling you.
Ganesha in Hinduism, from what I understand, not being Hindu, is the scribe of the gods. He's also referred to as the god who knocks down obstacles. He's sort of like the equivalent in Hinduism of Hermes or Mercury would be in Western Hermetic or esoteric or Greek, religion. So it may be that the mango, at least in that context, represents some kind of Hermetic, as in planet, some sort of...
Well, that would make it mercurial, which is the ruler of Gemini. Because Hod is ruled by Mercury. And it's also the abode of child gods. We know that Ganesh fits that idea pretty well. So I would put Ganesha in Hod. So maybe we put mangoes in Hod as well.
Mangoes on the whole tree.
Also, the whole tree is mangoes. Well, because it's a mustard tree. Because there's no such thing as a mustard tree. That was one thing Philip K. Dick said. He said, you think Jesus didn't know there was no such thing as a mustard tree? Of course he knew there was no such thing as a mustard tree. So that was his way of telling you that it was a hint. It was a hint that it was a metaphor.
Well, and of course you're going to say like mustard mango because like mustard trees don't have fruit. So if you want to get, the whole meaning of these, you kind of just pair them up together.
Yes. Okay, so what about the complementary religion of Buddhism? Because in some sense, Buddhism is sometimes considered heretical to Hinduism, but there's a similar overlap here with the meaning of the mango. In Theravada Buddhism, the mango represents the sweetness of Dharma, but also impermanence. And I put those two ideas together. Is that just Buddhist sense of humor for the shift is going to end someday? Eventually, we're all going to die, thankfully. Eventually the work is done. I think, is that the joke? I don't know. It's like, oh, someday this is going to be over. Impermanence. Oh, thank God. Thank God this isn't eternal. So the Buddha accepted a gift of mangoes from the courtesan Ampapali. Ampapali.
Ambapali.
Am I allowed to say it like that? Ampapali.
I don't think you're allowed to say it like that anymore.
Ampapali. Sometimes known as the mango girl. So you were right. You were right initially. You're like, I think it has to do with boobies. So maybe it did. Maybe this is metaphorical. Maybe he let Gautama squish the boobies. Now I'm embellishing and this has become fan fiction. I'm very sorry.
Okay, so I didn't say it on the show, but originally, I think it was maybe a couple weeks ago, when Luke and I were talking about this, I was like, I'm pretty sure mangoes have a sexual connotation to them. And he's like,
Because they juicy.
And he's like, I don't think they do. And I'm like, I totally think they do. So, yeah.
I would like to represent myself in this argument. I did not there's a sensual nature to mangoes. I just didn't believe that the kids were referencing a sensual thing, because kids hate sex.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that you can reference a mango and have it not be sexual, though. Whether you recognize it or not, whether that's what you're implying or not, it's just there because they're sweet and juicy. It's the energy of the fruit. It's the energy of the fruit, man.
Two arguments in favor of that. One is Israel Regardie's book, Garden of Pomegranates. Since we're equating pomegranates and mangoes, it's all about sex.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, fair.
And two, in my opinion, everything's a sex joke, especially in magic.
All of life is.
There's religious artwork that demonstrates this, whether you believe it or not. So, yes. And if you are a Thelemite, 0 equals 2, that's what's going on. There's a lot of rubbing going on, a lot of union happening in increments that is supposed to be the universe in ecstasy.
Also, from what I remember of childhood, there was a lot of kids thinking it was hilarious to make sex jokes without actually having an interest in sexual activities.
Yeah.
It's like farts or something to them.
Yeah, dude, it's like toilet humor to them.
So get this. The story of this courtesan giving mangoes to the Buddha has a well-known ending, and it's that she eventually donated an entire mango grove to the Sangha, which became the place of a famous monastery, which has maybe 10 or 11 syllables in it that I'm not going to try and pronounce.
Amba Polivanya.
Good job.
I don't know if that was facetious.
I think you did. No, that was great. You read all the Hindu words now.
Okay.
They're actually not that hard. Like, it's like you just gotta be ready to jump over some syllables, but it's mostly just sound it out.
You have to like let your tongue bleed it all together in some ways.
So then later, in Sri Lanka, Thailand, it's become a traditional place to build monasteries in mango groves because of this association. It's the sweet fruit of enlightenment.
Unless you put mustard on it.
Yeah, unless you put mustard on it. That's the hard knocks and wisdom of Christ. That's the suffering, right? The sweet, sweet suffering of Jesus Christ. And you too can continue to suffer through this episode if you visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you the extended second half of this episode, you'll get the extended second half of every single one of our episodes, which goes back before the 20s. So you can binge it, and binge it, and binge it, and binge it. And once you log in on Patreon, it makes it really easy so you can browse the extended episodes right in your Spotify app. Super convenient. It's the only way to do it. I'll send you a 5x5 high quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art, and you'll get the secret keys to our Discord server where you can confirm for yourself that I did send out the stickers. The fans have received them. And if you happen to be somebody who slipped through the cracks and did not receive them, you let me know and I will send them out right now. And if I don't, my wife will beat me.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Jesus Christ, and we're going to talk a bit more about some numbers associated with esoteric Christianity. I think this might take over the entire episode. I'm sorry. I'm sure at some point we'll discuss the esoteric meaning of the Pepsi logo, but we'll get there. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew.